Helmet sports.
All right, so we're gonna work on some hip jumps today, right? In our quest for style. So this is like a quest for functional style. So we're gonna go for some function and some form and some style today. We've got a nice hip jump actually right here where we are. We're gonna be working on this. It's a little bit of tending left a little bit. Do you know what the intended outcome is here? Like in terms of how you're gonna land on the hip? Like, let's say we have a hip angled like the landing is here instead of being flat, right? Because it's a hip.
Yeah.
What's the intention? Do you know what your goal should be there?
To match the landing.
Yeah, to match the landing. So we want to match the landing in terms of pitch, but also in terms of, our basically want to land perpendicular to the ground, right? So we do want to match that up and land already turning and land, with the tires square on the ground, right? So we'll work toward that today. Really smart. Anytime you're jumping new trails, just to kind of look for your outs, look for your options, and so we're going to do that first. And then we'll get right into it and see if we can get you turning a bit in the air, getting a bit of style. Speaking of style, like once I start to get this good counter-directional steering in the air and start to set this up really well, what could I turn this into? What kind of trick would this turn into if I wanted it to? If Jason were riding it.
Super steezy one.
Super steezy tabletop. Okay, because we're already counter-directional steering in the air and setting up to come through. And if Jason were riding this, he'd be throwing like a big flatty off this, right?
Okay.
So a little different than maybe a jump that's moving in a straight line where we might scrub or bring it into a whip, right? Like a scrub whip.
Oh, okay. So the counter-directional steering will lead into a tabletop.
Yeah.
And a whip leads into a scrub whip?
A scrub can lead into a whip.
Scrub leads into a whip.
Yeah. But you can whip without scrubbing. But it's not in its pure like primal functional form. Okay, so like here we can get some cornering in the air, like that's really the goal. We want to ride the trail well. But in turn that can also like look like style, right? And if we accentuate it a little bit, it could look like a tabletop.
Gotcha.
Not my forte, but Jason's pretty good at those. And then like with a whip, we could ride on like a straighter jump. We could ride perpendicular to the ground and then come up and whip. But we could also do that properly. We could carve up the lip, scrub, and then bring that into a whip. Okay, so yeah, these things, like everything that we're learning for all these things, like for your racing, being able to like squash, being able to scrub, things like that, that's where all this style came from. Like a lot of these tricks that we see that look like tricks when people are racing, really just kind of like people just accentuating what they were doing anyway for speed.
Okay, so it sounds like the table and this counter-directional steering, which we want to do, hopefully today, that's good for a turn.
Yes.
And then a whip and a scrub or a scrub whip.
Generally done in a straight line.
Okay.
Generally done in a straight line, yeah. So if I have a trail that's turning left, I would tabletop or counter-directional steer kind of out to the right and then drop in to the left. Or if the trail were tending right, I would counter-directional or tabletop to the left and then turn down into the right. And
Gotcha.
so if you watch videos, what you'll see, like if you see somebody on like an actual trail who's like doing what looks like kind of like a tabletop, notice that the trail's about to turn in the other direction. So this is something I think that even like really top riders aren't really even aware that they do. It's just a part of the functional movement that kind of becomes automatic for high level riders.
Gotcha.
Yep.
It feels funny talking about this. It's like, oh yeah, let's talk about scrubs and tabletops and whips and all this crazy stuff. And I'm like, I'm still working on the baby stuff, but it's nice to know where it could lead with time and practice.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what, we're planting the seed to be able to do more and more and more and build more on top of this. And if you don't even know that what you're doing is leading you toward that, then you're not really practicing moving toward that, right? So as you start to feel these feelings, you'll be like, oh yeah, I could feel how that is the beginning of something else, right?
Yeah. Cool. Well, we'll see where we get today.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. First thing we always want to do when we get to a jump line, and I know you're familiar with this, but this is kind of helpful for just to remember, like anytime that you go to a new place, we're always looking for our way out. So here our goal is to basically make a left-hand turn in the air and land going down trail, but we could go straight, right? We could go between the wall and that tree and be totally fine. So that would be what I'd want to look for if I was new here and I'm just trying to figure out how to do this the first time, and I don't want to like be forced to feel like I have to make the turn. Obviously there are circumstances where you have to do something. Here is not one of those. Like we've got an out, we could go straight. So that's the first thing we look for is what do we do, if we don't feel right? Well, we have a couple outs here. We actually could coming off the drop, we could pull to the right here, like if we don't feel like we have the speed, right? So that's our first option, is like, okay, the drop doesn't go well, boom, we pull out. Second option, we get plenty of speed, we decide to hit it, but we don't get our counter-directional steering in the air. We might just end up going straight, and that's totally fine.
Okay.
Third option is to get it the way we want it, get a nice drop, good speed down here, some counter-directional steering in the air, and we continue on down trail. So these things are always like puzzle pieces, and we just want to make sure we're building them safely and that we have a plan if things don't go to plan. Right?
Okay.
And we don't really need to worry about this piece of wood here. We've got a work crew up above. They're working their way down. This is, I'm sure, will be looking a lot different tomorrow. But right now, we're actually going to clear that piece of wood. It kind of looks like you might tap it, but you actually don't. The dirt lip will take you right up over it.
Okay, cool.
All right?
Sounds good. So basically, the lip is here.
Yep.
And this, I'll just be over it.
Just ignore that. Yeah, ignore that.
Just ignore this piece of wood.
Ignore that
Don't-
giant plank sticking
Don't
out.
look here.
Don't look there.
Look here.
Exactly, the beautiful dirt.
Yeah.
You want to ride first? You want me to go first?
How about you go first? And do you want to? I feel like I always make you go first.
It's okay.
Will you just show me the bailout option?
Yeah.
And just ride it straight. I'll ride it straight, and then we'll try and step it up from there.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and show our viewers just bailout 1, bailout 2.
Cool.
And then we'll get to jumping. All right, so just like last week when we did the step ups, same thing here. Like I can gauge if I've got enough speed, and I had plenty of speed. So now I can go ahead and jump it, and I'm gonna experiment with bailout number 2. All right, that was bailout option 2. Never actually done that.
Yeah, straight looks good to me.
Worked out just fine though, so that would be a good option if things don't go to plan, right? And then we'll take a look at how it's supposed to look now with a little counter-directional steering in the air and a good landing matching the pitch of the train.
You make it look so easy and so smooth.
Well, you know, it actually, once you get these movements, like it actually is super easy, and it's not even a conscious thing for me anymore. It's a lot easier than trying to like, you know, turn down or straight air it and like trying to just kind of like fight your way through it, because it really makes sense. So all I'm really doing there is, as I'm going up, I'm just making a little bit of counter-directional steering, and as I crest the arc, I'm just steering back in a little bit. And these are very slight movements.
Okay, I gotta show something to the camera because this, I think, is really important. This concept was so hard for me to even visualize because when I thought about counter steering, I always thought that my shoulders and my bars would be kind of aligned and that my body would make an S turn like this. And what I've been practicing visualizing is that the bars are going one way, but my shoulders are going the other way.
Yeah.
So I've been practicing this motion where it's almost like my shoulder, like opposite shoulder and hand are kind of coming together.
Yeah.
Is that right?
That's
like,
correct, yeah. You can even think about dipping the inside shoulder. So like, as I come up into here, one thing I can think about, if it helps you, I mean, I think about just counter-directional steering, and it just, that makes me dip the shoulder, but if that's helpful to you, as you come up into your arc here, you could, as you make your counter-directional, you could think about bringing your left shoulder down a little bit, and then that's, you notice how that puts my shoulders now on a similar plane to the landing, right?
Right here.
Yeah. So now I'm already kind of lined up, and then I'm going to come up and then just turn back in, and I'm still going to have this nice landing at the same angle as the jump.
You know, every time you demo that, your foot comes up like you're doing a table.
All right.
You know that people are actually know how to do the skill when all of a sudden their foot comes up.
Yeah.
This is the people faking it are like me, like this.
Yeah.
The people who actually do it are like, dink. All right.
All right.
So
just take it one step at a time. You know, if you need to bail out, bail out. If you want to, you know, if you get the turn, take the turn. If you can do it with counter-directional, great, but there's no rush to do that. We've got time today to roll through it a number of times.
Okay. I think my plan for the first one is just to hit it straight,
Okay.
assuming I have the speed.
Yeah, so I'm going to move my bike out of the way so that if you don't have the speed, you can cut out right here.
Can't run that kid over.
Nice, plenty of air. All right, now
It almost, like, it's weird. It almost caught me off guard.
what's that?
I think I have to go straight again and just like relax a
Okay,
little.
cool.
Yeah, that felt better. I felt a little more confident and ready for it.
Good. Yeah, just letting yourself settle to where you feel like heavy in the feet and kind of light in the upper body is kind of where you want to be when you're jumping. So at first you kind of have this maybe a little bit of anxious energy circulating around, and then as soon as you get like, okay, I can do this, you just start to kind of relax into your kind of like low into your body.
I can absolutely tell you that I was not relaxed in my upper body on that one. I will own that.
Okay. Well, remember we're going to need that for the counter directional. We need to be relaxed because we don't want to be like forcing it. We want to just be relaxing into it, right?
Oh yeah. That felt a lot better. It might have just looked the same, but
Felt better?
it did, yeah.
Well, you know, it's important how it feels, because if it feels better to you, that's going to allow you to relax, right? And that's going to allow you to start to move your body.
I felt like I was pushing through my feet and that my hands weren't tense.
Okay, good, good. You know, this jump, you can't over jump it, so just feel free just to really press in with the legs, and that active pressuring with the legs should take some of the kind of any nervous energy out of your upper body, because you're really going to be focusing on lower body compression. All right, that looked really good. Looks like you're starting to relax a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So remember, just like nice firm pressure with the legs, really relaxed upper body. And now you're just going to go for a little bit of kind of pointing that left shoulder down just a little bit and bringing the bars around. So just a little bit of that, and then bringing it back in. Okay. So left.
Okay, show me again.
So yeah, so as you come up, that left shoulder kind of is going to point down a little bit like this, and then you're going to come around, boom. Little counter-directional steering.
Okay.
Okay, so on the way up, it's like you're coming up, and then just as you're cresting, that shoulder's coming around, and then as you're coming down, it straightens back out.
Okay.
Okay, and that's going to help you make the turn in the air.
Okay, cool. So maybe I'll just hit the line first
Yeah.
instead of the bailout.
That's the nice thing about this jump is like you don't have to have this to make it. Like you can actually just kind of like turn down into it a little bit because of the nature of the jump, but to get it really well, we actually want this technique. Just do what you can do to start, and then we'll just kind of like keep working on it until it looks correct.
Yeah, I should have just set my goal as to ride this line, because the style thing is a lot of work.
It is. I mean, yeah, you set a lofty goal.
I did.
But remember, this style has a functional like implication to it, right? So like if you have good style on the bike, you're gonna have a lot of moves that really are gonna help you not only go fast but to stay safe. Okay, so it's all kind of goes hand in hand. Really talented riders aren't just stylish because they work on style. They're really stylish because they have really good functional form, right? And so like, those things are interrelated. Send it and bend it.
Send it and bend it. Yes.
All right, so now that you're getting lined up to come out of the jump line safely, so you're getting around the tree here and you're riding the actual trail, I think now you can just kind of relax and see if you can start to dip that shoulder a little bit, right?
Okay.
So now you know you don't have to do that to get through this line. There are more advanced lines that you'll actually have to have this technique dialed in the first time.
Okay. All right, I'll give it a shot.
Dip that left shoulder a little bit.
Dipping the shoulder. Send it and bend it.
Send it and bend it.
Send it and bend it.
Yeah. No, you got some of it.
Like I got a little dip.
So, we talked about the whole element of relaxation, right?
Yeah.
So you were like, I'm going to do this, right? So you did it, but it wasn't like...
It didn't flow.
It didn't flow, right? And that's fine. I mean, you got the basic movement. Now you can just try to flow there and flow back.
Okay.
Okay, that's the only difference we want, is just like flow there and flow back, but the same exact movement rather than just making it happen. You're letting it happen.
Okay. And I'm happy I even moved, because I get in the air so much and I'm just frozen.
Yeah, that's a pretty common story with a lot of riders, and it's actually kind of dangerous. So we want to make sure that we have this ability, especially if you're going to, if you decide you want to take your ramp you're jumping up and start riding even bigger lines. Really important to have movement in the air.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, here we go.
It was actually a really good Effort. Yeah, right. So effort is the word, right? You were like, oh, I'm doing it. Oh crap, I need to get back,
I need
right?
to land
Yeah.
this ship.
So you had flow this way, then you're like, what was I gonna do next? Oh yeah, that's right, I gotta get straight. So now like you're gonna flow like you just did.
Yeah.
And you're gonna flow back.
Okay.
Okay, so we're just adding on. Like first time was just like forced.
Yeah.
That one was like flow. Oh crap, I gotta steer back.
Uh-huh.
This is gonna be like just flow. The idea is that we're kind of like just twisting around our own spine, and that's what helps bring us back. Like we start to create like this sense of kind of like a little bit of like, kind of like tension, like just like it's like
Like
twisting
this
a little.
energy is building here
Yeah.
and then it releases.
Yeah, so it's one of my students calls it twisting the gummy bear.
Oh.
It's like if you twist a gummy bear, it'll twist back. So like we're twisting the gummy bear and then it's coming back and finding its form, right?
That's
So
hilarious.
yeah.
Twisting the gummy bear.
Send it and bend it and twist the gummy bear.
Okay.
All right, you got that? Okay. Good. Awesome. You're getting it.
It
You're
felt
getting it.
more relaxed.
Yeah.
I don't know that it looked glamorous, but it was feeling a little bit better.
It's functional. Like you're moving well now. And now it's just like, this is exactly what I've been trying to get you to do on the step up above here, right? Is to get this sensation and get this feeling. This is the first time I've seen you really getting it.
Cool. All
All right, another run.
Here we go. Oh, I did it!
Sweet, that was awesome.
Oh my gosh!
That
What
was
do
it.
you know? Your teaching works.
Who knew?
What?
That was so sweet.
Yes.
That was awesome. Finally, just like,
Oh,
boom.
I've never moved
Boom.
like that before.
Yeah. And it's actually easier once you learn to do this consistently, you'll never go back to the way you rode before because it's dangerous. Because you're just trying to like point to where you're going, and now you're just like relaxed, looking where you're going to go, and then just bringing the bike back.
Well, and having the ability to move in the air, then I'm assuming if you get off a little bit for some reason, you can adjust and move back.
That move you just did, I'll do that like all the time. Like just like hit a jump and be like, oh, that wasn't quite perfect, and I'll just like redirect my weight a little bit by making a little bit of movement like that. So
Yeah.
it's not just for setting something up properly, it's for making up for something that's not set up properly.
Because the way I see like my ideal riding is I want to ride more consistently. So I'm taking that margin of error and I'm tightening it. And then if I can build my skills around what to do when something goes a little bit wrong and I
Yeah.
can kind of clean up the chance of actually crashing on either end.
Yeah.
Like to me, that's the dream in mountain biking.
Well, that's really, I mean, like with everything that we're learning together, that's really the goal. So it's not just to go faster or go bigger, it's to go faster and bigger safely, right? And that actually doesn't come from trying to go faster or bigger, it comes from riding well. And that's what you're learning to do.
Yeah.
So super cool.
I'm so pumped right now.
Yeah, awesome.
That felt good. It felt smooth. The landing felt smooth.
Yeah, it was great. All right, that was super cool watching you do that. I mean, like really starting to get the feel for that, right? So one of the things to remember is that this is going to actually be easier on bigger jumps because you have more time in the air. And what we were trying to get you to is just to slow down and not rush through the movement and just really feel how that kind of links, how the counter directional links with the actual steering, right? So you started to get some nice rhythmic flow there, and you really got some nice directional change with the bike. I'm excited to see this, you know, kind of see this footage we got and see how it actually looks.
Me too. I mean, this really is the first time ever that I felt my body commit to leaning into something. And it's kind of scary the first time, but I'm really happy with how this went.
Me too.
I mean, it scares you, like, so I'm supposed to lean this way.
Yeah,
in
it's
the
not.
air.
It's counter-directional and it's counterintuitive for people, right?
Yeah.
You know, like people just kind of want to steer in. I think it's really important to like go through the process you've been going through, which is like you said, you were walking your dogs and you're like practicing this motion, and make sure that you're practicing it correctly so that when you get on the bike, the thing that you've wired into your body is actually the correct movement.
Yeah, absolutely. Because when I was trying to visualize this when we first started, I just wasn't getting it because my shoulders were going the wrong way. So to get that offset.
Yeah.
And for me, another thing, I didn't tell you this, but when I was up at the top, I kept telling myself to spot the landing so that would commit my body to the landing a little bit.
Yeah.
The other cool thing about this is that we've been hitting that drop now a whole bunch of times, and I kept thinking about back to episode 5 when we first hit that and how scary that was.
Yeah.
And the same thing, I didn't go back and hit it over the winter, and now I feel like I have this fresh wave of confidence, and we just hit it, what, 10, 12 times?
And I never even said anything about it. Like, I didn't even address it as a coach. Like, you were just like, oh yeah, I'm going to go off the drop and then I'm going to hit the hip. That's a really important takeaway for you as a rider, because anytime we come up to something new, we're like, oh my God, this is scary. And we don't think about the fact that one day it won't be, and it'll just be like normal for us, right? So knowing that you've been through this process and knowing that it just is a process, right, allows you to get started. And if you're starting at the point where I'm a little bit scared, I'm a little bit apprehensive, I'm a little bit tense, that's where you started all these processes, right? So know that that's part of a process, and don't try not to beat yourself up for it, because it is part of working through something and making it, allowing it to become something that's comfortable and you're not even consciously thinking about.
Yeah. So it's fun thinking back on how far we've come.
We've come a long way.
We have.
Nice work.
Thank you so much.